Hi, my friends in YouTube land. Wow, it's been a long time since middle of July. Um, I can't seem to get my camera going, so I'm just going to proceed. Hopefully, I'm going to be able to put an image on top or something. The Lord asked that I come on here and give testimony of my journey in the Lord. What it was like under the thumb of a hard ruler, a taskmaster. He asked me this a couple of months ago, but when he did, I said, Lord, to be honest, I couldn't find a nice thing to say about you in all fairness. So really I should decline. And it was very true. He asked again a few days ago, and now I think the time is finally at hand. So, as the Lord has requested, here is my testimony. I did write it down, so I hope it doesn't sound too much like I'm reading. Of course, I'll improvise as I'm going along. I can never keep the script anyways. If I could, my walk in the Lord might have been a little bit easier. Anyways, here it is. From a young child, I knew the Lord was there. I felt His presence all around me. I knew I was never alone. He walked alongside me every day. I could feel His presence. I became separated from Him for a period of about 7 years as a young adult after my mom passed away. Because basically I blamed Him and I revolted. And I just asked Him to leave me alone. I just didn't want Him in my life anymore. And He did. And I got lost. Big time. I did some horrible things. Some things that I'm not very proud of. He told me my sins were great, and so I had required much punishment. And He was right. Sometimes it's difficult to hear truth, but it's still truth. We should pray for discernment more often, I think. If some of you out there wants to say the Lord forgives, the Lord doesn't punish, well, it all depends on who you are, I guess, and what He expects of you. He's got expectations from each one of us. If you've been chosen to walk His footsteps and to carry that cross, you just do. And it isn't an easy path. As many of you out there are going to relate to the testimony that I'm going to give today. Anyhow, after about 7 years of being estranged from the Lord, I reconciled with Him. But I wouldn't say it was someone that I sought out. I went more towards things related to meditations. For many years, all kinds of meditations, imaginable, mostly about healing, transcending, and love. A lot of love meditations. And after a long while, I went to angel meditations, adoring virtue and healing therapy and things along those lines. Then about 8 or 9 years ago, I should have checked my notes more exactly first, I guess, but I began channeling a spirit that I thought was an angel. I have many writings of way back when, but in my mind, it never occurred to me that this was the Lord Himself, nor was it revealed to me at that time. All I knew was that it was a positive energy. Positive energies and positive vibrations were my language back then. So, yeah. Then I had a face-to-face encounter with love about that time, about 8 years ago. Such a tremendous force that it literally changed my life. Perhaps it was the baptism of the Holy Spirit, I don't know, but it was a powerful testimony of something. It lasted about 45 seconds. I got up from there, threw myself at my husband, and wept and wept and wept. Oh my gosh. The only way that I knew how to describe this experience was that I had had a face encounter with Jesus Christ. I wept for 6 months, I kid you not. And I could not fathom the purpose of being on this earth when I had had a taste of heaven. All I wanted was to go home. I would come home from work at lunch hours, write him love letters, and just weep. I wanted to be with him so badly. Then I saw an image of his face appear on the blind in my bedroom. The blind was closed, and it was so beautiful. I wanted to wake up my husband to show him, but I was afraid that the image would disappear. And then I remember one night as I was going to sleep, but not quite there yet, I was transported into a vision where I was in a ballroom, and I was looking all around me, not sure where I was. And then this presence came up beside me, invisible, but I felt him. He took me in his arms and he began to waltz. Oh my gosh, he was so beautiful, so graceful, such a guiding force. My husband and I had taken dance classes years before, and I couldn't get the hang of letting him lead. I don't know why, I guess I had that personality. Anyhow, it wasn't a problem in my vision. He certainly could guide me very accurately. He was just so much in control, so firmly yet delicately, and he guided me across that dance floor. And I was never more in love than before. And I never wanted it to end, but then I had to return to my bedroom. I opened my eyes and I was alone. But there were many incidents like these testimonies. Then months went by, and life returned to normal after having wept for 6 months and having had that encounter with love and Jesus Christ. Except everything was just so beautiful. I finally stopped crying, but it was beautiful when it rained. It was beautiful when it snowed. It was beautiful when I had a flat tire. Everything had a purpose, and everything was just so pure. He was in my heart. I condemned no one. I loved even the pedophiles. I could sympathize, I could understand, and my husband would get angry and say it was stupid, that I wouldn't feel that way if it was my own child. But somehow I knew that if it had happened to my child, I would be able to find a way to forgive and go on. Still, in my walk with the spiritual continued, and then a phenomenon began happening. You know, when I would ask a question, my heart would thump. To thump. You know, it was so strange in my chest if the answer was affirmative. And there would be no thumping if the answer was no. There was such a swell of love in my heart all the time that it was literally was causing me chest pains that would cross over into my back. It was so sharp, the pain. I had difficulty breathing, and it was always like that. That was normal way of being for me. And being in the world of meditating, well, I was told that I wasn't properly grounded. Then years went by, and you can't stay in that state forever, you know, so I drifted out, and it was in and out, you know, for years. I knew I was in contact with the Lord, all the thumping in my heart. Well, in fact, I thought more like it was probably an archangel, Michael to be exact. My cult was more towards the angels back then than anything. Then in the spring of 2012, my house burned down. And I watched my house burn down from a neighbor's house across the street. I still remember it to this day when she said, "Oh, you're getting the baptism by fire." And I had no idea what she was talking about. Today I know it's not at all what the baptism of fire means. But still, this fire was meant for the grandeur of God's schemes, because it wasn't very long after that the Lord came forward and expressed that He wanted me to move. When I prayed on this, He told me that what awaited for me was more beautiful than I ever could imagine, and that I should go to the end of what was given me. So, I uprooted my family and we moved. What I found when I moved, I found a prayer group and a little church, and I began Bible studies in September of 2012. I had never in my life read the Bible. I felt I had found a family at last, someone I could share all my spirituality with. But they led me to the Bible. Then one day, sitting casually in prayer with the Lord, I heard His voice for the first time. He said to me, very loud and clear, this deep voice, boasting in the room where I was sitting. He said, "Someday I will tell you to get up and go. And you will get up and go to a place that I will designate to you." And that voice was so powerful, it was so commanding, that all I could say was, "Yes, Lord." By now, there were no more angels. I was finally finding that grounding that I had searched for all my entire life, except it was in the Bible. It was in Jesus Christ and in the truth and the revelation of God. Then he asked me to leave the church. Its sole purpose had been to bring me to the Bible, and it had accomplished its goal. Boy, I wept. I cried out to him, but he would not overturn that decision. So obediently, I left the church and continued and pursued him on my own again, as I've done all my life, so alone. Yet this time my pursuit had a goal. I knew who I was searching for. Then I heard his voice audibly a couple of more times. Then in August of 2013, I had my first marital encounter with him, and then again in December of that year. And on Christmas Eve of that year, 2013, he began to speak through me, through the headlines. And my entire walk with him just changed to a whole new level. I've never heard him audibly again, but I know that voice anywhere. I hear him in my mind. Sometimes I just hear him telepathically, or it's a wave of sensation and knowledge just downloaded into my spirit. And at other times I hear his male voice very clearly in my mind. I can distinguish it anywhere, but it hasn't been audible like in the room. But anyhow, once the headlines began, other forms of communication sort of diminished. He then asked me to publish the headlines, which I was doing. You were probably watching at that time. Then in July of 2014, this past July, very abruptly, he told me to stop. I thought I was misunderstanding, so I kept taking the notes in preparations for the headlines, and he repeated, "Stop the headlines," almost yelled out to me like he was angry. And when I asked why, he said it was self-propaganda. I couldn't understand it. I wasn't permitted to come on here and say anything or say goodbye. I didn't know how long it would be for. It could have lasted just a week, for all I knew. But at that time, I hadn't realized it. I had already come face to face with him as a hard ruler. It was beginning, and this is a crucial part of the testimony that he wanted me to bring to you about 2 months ago, that I refused because, in all honesty, it would not have been very flattering to him. But now I finally agreed to give it, because now I have finally found the answers. I finally get it.